Welcome to the 80-20 Baseball Podcast. Strike! The 80-20 Coaching Masterclass, our weekly get-together where coaches go from new to good and good to great. Mastering the fundamentals and the art of coaching.
Welcome 80-20 baseball coaching community. I want to welcome all of you youth baseball coaches joining us here as we take an advanced approach to coaching youth baseball teams and players very efficiently and very effectively, trying to be good coaches, trying to be great coaches with the very limited time that we have. The coaching plan launch was a big success. I've received some great feedback. I think it's second to none as far as a resource for youth baseball coaches, but nothing pumps me up even more than hearing about the success from all the coaches that have bought it, that have reached out, implementing the drills, implementing the throwing program, implementing the visualization routine. In fact, I just updated one of the sections yesterday, Team Rules Guide. Essentially, it's a print and use team rules system. I think of the coaching plan like an app. I'll continuously be updating it. I already think it's a 5-star coaching plan, but we're always trying to get better. You can get it right there on the homepage at 8020baseball.com. So super pumped up for that. Love being here with all of you. Great time of year for baseball. At the youth level, the All-Star games are going for youth teams. The College Baseball World Series is just around the corner. High school championships have been going on. The professional season is in full swing. And speaking of learning from some of the more advanced levels of baseball, learning in terms of what we can take and use at our level, the youth baseball level, which is quite a bit of stuff, but of course not everything. For those of you that have been following the college baseball playoffs at the NAIA level, there was a team, LSU Shreveport, an NAIA team, 59-0. 59-0. Now, I'm not going to talk about that team right now, but I am and have been digging into that team because now, while I'm not a big fan of looking to copy teams or coaches that have success for one season or for a small stretch of time, but rather long periods of time, also those commonalities amongst the successful coaches. Well, when a team goes 59-0, then NAIA is good baseball. In fact, LSU Shreveport beat a team in the semifinals, Hope International. One of my old high school teammates is a coach on that team, and I know he knows the game really well. That's quality baseball. So I'm digging in on that. I'll get back to you. There's not a lot of stuff on them out there, but rest assured, I'm digging 59-0. We got to figure out what they did different and see what we can use at the youth level, see what we can copy and borrow. At the Division I level, quite a few of the top teams have lost. This keeps in perspective, when we have a good team, that doesn't mean we're going to win every game. Even the great baseball teams, typically outside of the aforementioned LSU Shreveport, are not going to win all of their games. In fact, they're going to lose a good handful. My high school won the national title, high school national title 40 years ago, and they were 25-5. They had 5 losses, and they were the number 1 high school team in the country. So we're going to lose games. So go out there and don't expect to go undefeated. Play to go undefeated, but don't expect it. Speaking of which, I have a great clip here from the number 2 seed in the tournament, the Division I baseball tournament. Again, I know this is a youth baseball podcast, but I like using these clips that we can all see, that some of us are even very familiar with, we've seen ourselves, and I like to tie it into how we can be better coaches at the youth level where it's applicable. So this first clip is University of Texas Coach Schlossnagel. I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm guessing he's one of the highest paid coaches in college baseball, playing under a lot of pressure from the fan base, high expectations at the University of Texas. Here's what he said about an in-state college that beat his team and cost his team the chance of going to the College World Series, University of Texas, San Antonio. Yeah, I know, UTSA. I'm sure there's a lot of people outside of Texas that didn't even know that was a college. And here they are, going on to the next round, the Super Regionals, having beat the number 2 seed, the mighty Texas Longhorns. But here's what Coach Schlossnagel said after the defeat. And I'd like you all to key in on how he gives compliments, how humble he is, very respectful. This is a first-class post-game interview after a tough loss. No excuses, no pity, no backhanded compliments. When we lose, this is a good example of how to handle it. Now, most all of us at the youth level aren't going to do post-game interviews, press conferences, but the vibe, the message, the tone, the foundation of this message is something we should all borrow and use anytime we can when talking after a tough loss.
It's not a fluke. It's not some team that had a losing record and then all of a sudden showed up here and won a regional. I mean, it's a real team. Right-handed, left-handed, switch, run, power, different pitchers out of the bullpen, and a persona. And so, and that's it's more than just beating Texas. I mean, they have a good team, and they're very well coached, and Coach Hallmark's been around the block, man. And I hate it for us, but I'm super happy for him. And Coach Graham would be super proud of him. And I know that means a lot to him. And so, I've been in a different jersey and won a postseason tournament on this field. So I know what that feels like to try to get your program over the hump. And it stinks for us, but I'm truly happy for Coach Hallmark. It's really good. And his team.
All right, that was Coach Schlossnagle at Texas. Just a truly great way to handle a tough loss. I think we can all learn from that as coaches, especially when we're talking to just our own team and our own set of parents. Now, this next clip is a little firmer. It's a different message that I'm trying to share here, and that is Coastal Carolina's coach, Chenal, is addressing a really poorly handled situation as a coach. Now, the Florida head coach, Coach O'Sullivan, very well respected, looked up to, as you'll hear in this interview, national champion college coach, been around the game a long time, done a lot of great things, coached up a lot of great players, but there's video out there of him lambasting, what a great word. So Coach O'Sullivan was berating, lambasting, chastising, just ripping in to the staff at Coastal Carolina, not the coaching staff, but the field crew. From what I understand, the game time got moved, maybe without his knowledge. I haven't done a lot of digging on that because it really doesn't matter. He drops F-bomb after F-bomb, and one of the videos is pretty far away. It's like 50 feet away, and you could clearly hear all the profanities and just the way he handled it. Now, why this clip from Coach Chenal? Because we need to speak up for integrity of youth baseball. We need to also speak up against other coaches or things around the league that are not on the up and up in the best interest for the players, the kids. If we're not setting a good example for the kids, people need to speak up about this. Now, in a polite, respectful way, not a combative way, but it needs to be spoken up to. In fact, I got an email recently from a coach, sent me an email that he had sent to his local league, very polite, respectful email. And it was talking about how he was disappointed and how the league handled certain things and thought it should have been handled different and, explained it really well. But, he spoke up for something that he thought should have been better. And I think if we want youth baseball to be better, we have to speak up. And here's a coach, one of the most respected, looked up to coaches in all of college, at a line. Did he have every right to be upset? Yes. Did he have every right to do and act like he did? No. There's a difference, right? Coach O'Sullivan had the right to be upset. I should say this. It sounds like he had the right to be upset. All right. Again, I didn't do a bunch of digging on exactly the timeline of what happened and what he knew and didn't know and whatnot. But no matter what, I would say he has the right to be upset, but the response and the treatment of others, that needs to be on the up and up. That needs to be respectful, whether we're upset or not. And so if you're out coaching a game, say this summer, and the tournament comes up and says, hey, we're going to start the game. If they come up and move the game or switch the game or the game gets switched, I think this is a good example of what we can learn from this. We got to be able to pivot. And sure, we can be initially frustrated and upset, but that's just going to take away energy from being a better coach, from solving the problem. And at the end of the day, it's like arguing with umpires. If we're going to get any change, if we're going to get somebody to change their mind and do things or do something the way we would like it to be done, chewing them out, lambasting them, that's not going to get us to that result. That's not going to get us the outcome we want. That's probably going to diminish the chances that we get the result we want. So staying calm gives us a much greater opportunity to change the other person, their mind, their actions, staying respectful. And we got to set a good example. And it kind of goes along with that well-known baseball mental game book titled So What Next Pitch. I think Coach O'Sullivan, and you can go see his reaction. It's all over social media of him blowing up. And again, we can be upset when a tournament switches the time on us. We can be upset that maybe we didn't get our pregame infield outfield opportunity. That's cool. But we don't have the right to be blasting people, yelling at people, cussing people out. We got to set a good example. Also, it just wastes all that extra energy. Finding energy to be a great coach is already hard enough. I'm not going to go wasting it on the umpire when there's less than a 1% chance they're going to change the call, or the field crew that's already made the decision to move the game back an hour. It is what it is. So what? Next move. So what? Next pitch. Let's take that energy into coaching up our players to adjust to that change. But here's the response from Coach Chenal from Coastal Carolina that I think is good. And I think this is what we need more of in the baseball world and at the youth level, which a lot of youth baseball is deteriorating, not because the kids, not because the sport of baseball, but because the parents and the coaches and the leagues. And I think it starts with stepping up and addressing it and speaking up against it, stigmatizing this bad behavior, this disrespectful behavior.
One last thing I have is I have to say this, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I believe in standing up for what's right. And what transpired this morning on our field, another coach disrespected our associate AD, who works as hard as anybody in our entire program. He disrespected our field crew, who are the salt of the earth. These guys would do anything for our program. It's not okay. And this needs to be brought up. Absolutely disrespectful. As a coach, it's our job to mentor young kids. And the way he treated the 2 site reps, the way he treated our associate AD, the way he treated our field crew is absolutely unacceptable. And that's what I'm most disappointed about. This is a national champion coach who thinks he can come in here and try to bully people around. Disappointed. Disappointed, somebody that a lot of coaches look up to. For him to act that way, really disappointed. He disrespected a Hall of Fame coach who's the site rep here. That's all I got to say.
All right, so that was Coach Chenal. I like his firm tone. I like how he handled it. I think this was probably one of the best follow-up messages in response to another person, in this case, another coach, doing something that was not right. Now, Coach O'Sullivan has apologized. Florida University has apologized. And I'm sure Coach O'Sullivan is probably a great guy in so many ways. This reaction is something I would think I'd see from like a JV coach that's like 24, coaching on the backfield at the local high school, not somebody that's been in the game for 4 decades or more. So my 2 messages here. 1, let's compliment the other team and let's be good losers when we lose. It's okay to praise the other team. And we definitely don't want to lose and be bad losers about it and put down the other team or make excuses. Coach Schlossnagel did a great job in that first clip of setting a good example of how to handle a tough loss. Coach Chenal in the last clip set a good example of how to stand up and address, coaches acting a fool so we can keep, and that in his case, college baseball, but we can protect the integrity and the environment in youth baseball. I think youth baseball needs this more now than ever. Now, let's move to today's training tip. When we're coaching our pitchers, whether that's the pitchers on your team, your own kid, there are 5 things we must address before ever trying to coach up our pitchers to throw harder. We must address, work on, train, fix, improve 5 things before we ever consider or even think about training them up to throw harder, to increase their velocity with things such as weighted balls or other implements. These 5 things should be done before ever chasing velocity. Now, is velocity bad? No. Throwing harder, is that bad? Not inherently. But there are 5 things that need to be done first before chasing velocity, before focusing on velocity. I had a coach the other day ask me how he could get his kid to throw harder. And I looked at these 5 things and 2 of them were not done very well. And I said, before you get there, fix those 2 things. This is the big reason why chasing velocity and trying to throw harder injures arms. Throwing hard doesn't mean kids are just guaranteed to get hurt. I mean, look at Nolan Ryan. He threw as hard as anybody for longer than anybody. He never had a serious arm injury until he was literally a grandpa. I think his last outing was the first time he actually got his arm seriously hurt. Now, I know that's anecdotal, but we're putting the cart ahead of the horse here. Trying to throw harder, that's fine. But the problem is we're not addressing and fixing these 5 areas first. We're not training up and improving these 5 areas. Number 1, strengthening the pitcher's lower half. The pitcher has a weak or unstable lower half. Their legs are weak. They're not mobile. Their front side's not firm. Their landing legs not stable. Their stride's inadequate. Their hips are not mobile. So a weak and unstable lower half, it's like putting a Hemi engine on bald tires. That's not a good recipe. So we need to get the lower half stronger, more mobile, more stable, a better foundation before chasing velocity. Number 2, an inefficient delivery. An inefficient delivery, the biggest part of that is not using the lower half, not using that glute lead, By the way, I break down every single one of these things and how to train it, how to coach it up in the coaching plan. I show it, I illustrate it. So number 2, an inefficient delivery, wasted movement, extra movements, excess movements, the kinematic sequencing, the kinetic chain, it's not synced up, the rhythm is not right. So inefficient delivery, not using that lower half to generate momentum, the rhythm's not good, wasted movements, all that falls under the inefficient delivery. Number 3, poor nutrition. This never gets talked about. Poor nutrition. We are what we eat. Our tendons, our ligaments, our kids' tendons and ligaments and bones, all that is made up from what we eat and what we drink. So all of that nutrition or lack of nutrition becomes our body, becomes the elbow, the shoulders, the tendons, the ligaments, the bones, the muscle. So poor nutrition, that needs to be addressed, or at least very poor nutrition. No kid's nutrition is going to be great. I always think the ideal goal for a kid, like the ideal goal in an ideal world, is the 80-20. 80% of the food they eat is really healthy and 20% is whatever, donuts and cupcakes, but 80% is really healthy, whole foods, organic, a healthy variety of those foods, etc. Better nutrition helps reduce injuries. Number 4, under-conditioned arms. So now there's a lot of talk, and I'll hit this on number 5, about over-pitching kids, too many pitches, pitch totals, pitch counts. Yes, and we'll talk about that in number 5. But number 4, under-conditioned arms, especially early in seasons, but not always. The pitchers aren't conditioned. So number 4, under-conditioned arms. Don't go chasing velocity until the arm is conditioned properly. And number 5, excess pitch totals. And this one gets talked about the most, over-pitching kids. So if a kid over-pitches, you pitch him too much, you're throwing a bunch, he pitches in a bunch of games here or there, he pitches for 2 different teams, and then you go see a pitching guy that wants to do a bunch of stuff with weighted balls and all this, velocity training on top of that, that's a recipe for disaster. So those are the 5 areas that need to be improved, fixed before even thinking about chasing velocity. Oh, and by the way, those 5 areas will help pitchers throw harder, or at least maintaining velocity. Number 1, pitchers cannot have a weak or unstable lower half. It needs to be a stable lower half. It needs to be mobile and strong. The coaching plan has an entire strength and conditioning routine that can be done on the field with one player or the whole team. And yes, the lower half, addressing number 1 here, is the biggest priority in the 80-20 baseball coaching plan. Number 2, inefficient delivery. We got to get our delivery more efficient. Online, optimize the stride length, limit wasted movement. Number 3, poor nutrition. Kids got to eat better. Kids don't have to eat perfect, but they probably need to eat better, especially if they want to be good athletes. Number 4, under-conditioned arms. Don't go chasing velocity when the kids picked up a baseball for the first time 2 weeks ago. Let's get the arm conditioned, then let's take care of these other things, and then, and only then, should we think about focusing on some kind of velocity improvement. And number 5, excess pitch totals. Excessive pitching, a tired, weak arm, not a good time to start experimenting with velocity training. All right. So those are 5 things that we need to coach up, that we need to train up, that we need to improve with our pitchers before ever chasing velocity improvement or velocity specific training. All right. I really enjoy being here with all of you every week. If you can leave a rating or review for this podcast, that would be great. Head over to the website, 8020baseball.com. Tons of additional stuff there to elevate your coaching game. Next week, we'll discuss how showboating actually leaves a long-term advantage, a big long-term advantage for our players to capitalize on. Yes, but it's not what you think. So tune in next week, and I'm seeing a lot of showboating, a lot more showboating nowadays, but there's a big long-term advantage sitting there for us to take advantage of, our players to capitalize on moving forward. So we'll talk about that next week. And until next week, you should be proud of yourself for being a coach. Definitely one of the best things to hang our hat on at the end of the day, giving back to the community, to the next generation. Let's take care of our health so we can be there for our family, our close friends, our teams. And let's take this information out there, put it into play, put it into action. Y'all take care. And until next week, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Podcast, the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. We got this. Now, let's take the field.